Hi, I'm Amy.
And I'm Neil.
And we are
Nerds Over 40.
Neil, what do you want to talk about this week?
Oh, let's see. It's episode 7. Let's talk about video games.
Let's talk about video games. Originally, we were thinking about talking about just games in general. And then I started doing some research and going, oh no, there is way, way too much there. So we'll probably have a future episode that will deal with like D&D, some card games, things like that.
Yeah, tabletop games, yeah.
But for the purposes of this episode, we are going to talk about electronic games.
Yes.
Variety of different types. But before we do that, I'd like to talk about our nerd product of the week. How do you feel about that?
Let's do it.
All right. So the nerd product of the week, and again, we are not sponsored, though if anybody wants to sponsor us, hit us up, is by nerdwax.com. And they make products for eyeglasses, which I thought would be good for nerds because lots of nerds and lots of people over 40 wear glasses.
Yes.
I personally have 3 different pairs of glasses. I have one for reading. I have one for driving. I have my sunglasses. I'm constantly looking for my glasses.
It's true.
So glasses get dirty, right? So NerdWax has a couple of different products. One of the products, which Neil's interested in, is they make something that looks like a little chapstick tube, but you put it on the bridge of the glasses and it keeps the glasses from sliding down the bridge of your nose, which mine do perpetually.
Yeah, my glasses constantly slip down on me.
So I haven't ordered those yet, but I'm going to. They also have some glass cleaner that keeps your glasses from fogging up. But what caught my eye was a microfiber glass cleaner that looks perfect for nerds. Look at this. It looks like a VHS tape, had something written on it and then got crossed out, and they put the X-Files, which if you've been watching in the past, you know that's one of my favorite shows of all time.
No doubt it was someone's wedding originally.
No doubt, or somebody's birth or whatever.
Something, not important.
And then the back of it looks like the back of a VHS tape. So that's some attention to detail right there. It doesn't match, so I like that. But they have a lot of different cool products. So they have some that look like cassette tapes, and then they have some food ones. They have one that looks like a tortilla, one that looks like a piece of pizza, and then they have underwear ones. They have tidy whities, and they have granny panties. Neil wants some of those. You want to wipe your glasses with granny panties?
Sounds hot.
Sounds hot. And then they also have like one that looks like sandpaper, variety of different things. So if you're interested, check them out. They are at nerdwax.com. 1X. It's not one of those sexy eyeglass cleaners. 1X.
Oh.
So anyway, let's get into our topic.
Yes.
So let's talk about games and electronic games specifically. So when I was doing my research, I kind of put it in 3 different categories. So the first is console games. Next are computer games that you would play on your computer. And the third are handheld games / mobile games. And we'll get into the games we play on our phones and things like that. So first of all, what's the gamer stereotype? Talk to me a little bit about that.
Oh, the basement dwelling incel, neckbeard.
Did anybody watch Die Hard with a Vengeance? In Die Hard with a Vengeance, Kevin Smith, who's one of our boys, played Warlock, and he basically lived in his mother's basement, right?
He was a hacker. He lived in his mom's basement.
He had his command
center.
Yeah, and Bruce Willis shows up, and hijinks ensued. And if you ever interested, Kevin Smith tells a hilarious story about filming that, meeting Bruce Willis and playing that character, and it's pretty funny. So
yeah, good stuff.
Everybody loves Bruce Willis. So yeah, anyway, that's on one of his stand-up things that he did at a college. I can't remember which one.
Yeah,
Google it.
It's on
YouTube
someplace,
but it's funny.
Yeah.
Other mass media depictions of gamers.
South Park, Make Love, Not Warcraft.
Yeah, and Neil and I, if you're not watching on YouTube, are both wearing the Warcraft t-shirts. So, Neil, what does yours say?
Oh, mine's social distancing since World of Warcraft, social distancing since 2004.
We got that during the pandemic.
Definitely leaning into that stereotype.
And mine is the Lich King's Ice Cream Citadel. So one of the most popular expansions of World of Warcraft was Wrath of Lich King. We'll get to that later when we're talking about that. But I got this at the Blizzard booth at Comic-Con many, many years ago. But I love this T-shirt. I wear
Along
it all
with
the
your
time.
little friend right here.
Yes, which we're going to get to later. But this is the Nexus Whelping, and we'll talk about him later. He's my mascot. He rides in my car with me every day. We pulled him out of the car. We pulled him out of the car temporarily to come and visit you folks.
You better get him back into
He's going back in the car tomorrow.
Remember what happened the last time we didn't get him back in the car?
We'll get into that. We're jumping ahead.
I'm all about jumping ahead.
He is about jumping ahead. So let's talk about console games.
Okay.
So what was the first console game you can remember?
Pong.
Me too. I was living in Germany in the early 80s, and one of my friends had a Pong game, and I thought that was the height of sophistication and coolness. The controller was round, right? And you'd just like spin the controller,
yeah,
and then you'd have a bar that went up and down, and basically it was like a little bloop, 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 like basically a tennis ball, right? That's kind of what that looked like.
Yeah, I don't even know how my family got it, because my parents were far from first adopters,
right?
You know, and as well as being pretty tight with a penny too. So
I think we've covered that.
Someone must have given it to us.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Yeah, I didn't have it. I played it at a friend's house. So, but that was my first introduction to video games, and we played that thing for hours.
See, so I'm gonna honestly, we played it a few times, and it's just like, this is it. You know, there's other things in real life that captured us more than Pong.
Right. Well, Pong was low tech, right?
But for the time, that was cutting edge.
It was, and I mean that is the kind of the evolution of the video game industry, right? Is all of this technological advancement, and with each technological advancement comes this evolving gameplay. And the experiences get richer and bigger and better looking. So that's going to be the story of all of these, the console games, the computer games, and the handheld games. So most of them started as very, very simple games on all of those platforms. And Pong was certainly an example of that.
Yeah.
So what was the next console that you can remember playing on?
I would say the first true console was the Atari 2600.
Same here. And again, my parents didn't have one. They didn't get us one. But my friend April, her family had one. So we'd go over to her house and we played Atari. So what did you play on Atari?
Oh, whew. So everyone got, well, we had Adventure. We had...
Is that the one with the guy swinging?
No, that's Pitfall.
Pitfall, right.
Pitfall.
We played Pitfall. I remember Pitfall.
And it seems to me that came out after Indiana Jones. I think it was trying to take advantage of the Indiana Jones thing.
Okay. I can almost hear that. Like the sound that it made when he would swing. It had like this little electronic like bleep sound that it made.
There was Space Invaders. Mm-hmm. I think that might have come with the console. One of my personal favorites, and this was kind of a later generation 2600, but Yar's Revenge.
I don't remember that one.
That one actually, it felt a little bit more advanced, because a lot of these were pretty primitive, right? You know,
they weren't like Matthew Broderick and War Games starting like, you know,
well,
I
think they might have. No, we didn't start World War III, but we did go through some controllers. Man, I used to break those so fast, because, you know, if you push harder on it, it moves faster. So, you know,
theoretically. So you haven't mentioned the game I played. So my favorite game on Atari was Frogger, and I played Frogger both at the arcade and also on the Atari. That was my favorite game, which was a pretty simplistic game, which was kind of my story of getting into games. Was anything that was totally complicated and was like a time suck, I didn't want to do. I liked kind of the basic. That's why I liked Pac-Man. That's why I liked Frogger.
The thing about most of those 2600 games is that they could be as much of a time suck as you wanted them to, because you couldn't actually beat them. You know, you just kept, like Pitfall, you just kept going and going and going. Mm-hmm. And, you know, like Missile Command. It just kept getting faster and faster and faster until you couldn't keep up with it.
Yeah. I remember playing River Raid, and that was one that I was like, thought I was pretty cool playing. Like that, there was more to that than just like jumping across the road and not getting squashed
Yeah.
in Frogger.
Well, those Activision games seem to be a little bit more sophisticated than the ones that were made by Atari. At least that's what it seemed like to me.
All right. And what were the other consoles that were kind of competing against Atari at the time?
Well, I think the biggest one was in television.
Okay.
And that actually had the games. I think that was actually a better console. We didn't have it, but I remember I had friends who had it, and those games just seemed a little more sophisticated than the games for the Atari.
You mentioned one that Aunt Nancy had.
Well, she had the Odyssey, the
Magnavox.
Magnavox Odyssey.
Okay.
And I think that one was the first one that had like Pac-Man on it.
I don't remember ever seeing that game, so I can't speak to that. The only one I ever played was the Atari.
Yeah, I don't remember being too terribly blown away by it. But when Aunt Nancy was around, you had better things to do than play video games when you're hanging out with Aunt Nancy.
That's nice. So, around the time that the consoles were coming out, the arcade games were also happening. So
those were great times. To this day, I still get excited when I see a roll of quarters.
You want a roll of quarters and, kind of that psychedelic carpeting that they always had in there.
Hey, $10 for the quarters, and I was set for a day, man.
You're good. And so the biggest game of that time, the big game that came out at the beginning, was Space Invaders. You mentioned
Space
that.
Invaders.
And that was a huge commercial success at the time. So it came out in 1978, and it made a net profit of $450 million at the time. The equivalent of that is $1.3 billion.
Wow, that's like a Marvel movie.
So Space Invaders spawned imitators, right? I mean, that's what happens. So I would say that Galaxian is very similar to Space Invaders, wouldn't you say?
So if I'm thinking of the right one, Galaxian though was a side scroller, I think, wasn't it?
It was not a side scroller, but what made it different from Space Invaders was it had more color graphics. It had RGB graphics, so it allowed for animation in multicolor, and the background scrolled. So Space Invaders didn't have like a background that scrolled. If you look at Galaxian, it looks like stars that are moving behind the little guys that you're shooting. So then technology is progressing. The next big one was Asteroids, which introduced vector graphics.
Asteroids was huge.
Yes.
You could find Asteroids consoles everywhere.
Right. And then after that, which also utilized vector graphics, was the Star Wars game in 1983. And you said you played that. You liked that game,
yeah,
right?
that's a game that I played the heck out of that one. That's one that actually, first of all, it was one of the first sit down sort of console games where you could sit down and kind of feel almost like you're flying in it. Mm-hmm. And it had more than sort of one screen. You moved. You're basically making a run on the Death Star, so you'd be shooting the towers, and they'd be shooting back, and then you finally dip into the
into the trough, right? I remember that.
And then you have to just shoot it just at the right time to
just like Luke Skywalker.
Yeah, yeah. Bullseyeing womp rats.
That's right.
So that was a great game. Moon Patrol.
I don't remember that.
You don't remember Moon Patrol?
What did Moon Patrol look like?
So it's a side scroller, and you're in a little moon buggy, and you've got these ships that are coming down, and you've got ships or little aliens that are coming at you, and you shoot up and to the side at the same time.
Okay.
So you can shoot the ships up that are up above you, and you can
shoot the ship,
and you can shoot the little alien dudes on the bottom that were coming after you. But the cool thing, you almost didn't mind dying when you did die, because the sound it had some of the better sound. It made this sharp cracking noise, and there were 6 wheels. Well, you can only see 3 because it's side scroller, right? Mm-hmm. But the wheels would go bouncing all over the place when you got blown up. So it was kind of funny when you died on that game.
All right. So what is the other game you think of when you think of going to the arcade? What was the game?
Well, so I don't know if this is the game for everybody, but I loved Gauntlet. It had a fantasy sort of
Okay.
vibe to it, and it was one of the very first cooperative games where you could have up to 4 people playing on the same side at the same time. And also I was playing Dungeons and Dragons at the same time, so you had a barbarian, and you had an elf who's kind of a hunter. You had a wizard, and I don't even remember the fourth one, but you could play cooperatively, and it was a quarter suck. I mean, it would. Yeah, I put pumped a lot of quarters in there, but it was fun.
For me, I played Pac-Man.
Well, Pac-Man.
Actually, Ms. Pac-Man, because I'm a feminist. But yes, I played Pac-Man and Ms. Pac-Man. Those were the ones that I liked to play. I played those.
Well, Pac-Man. Everybody loved Pac-Man, but
I mean that sound at the beginning of Pac-Man, which led to a song, right? Pac-Man Fever.
I had Pac-Man Fever on a 45, which. I was very young. That's my excuse.
See, you talk crap about the 70s music, but, the 80s gave us Pac-Man Fever. Was Disco Duck the 70s, though? Disco Duck might have been.
Well, it was basically the same people who did those, wasn't it?
No, Rick Dees did Disco Duck, who was one of the
Rick
DJs.
Dees was also, it was
I don't think Rick Dees was involved with Pac-Man
I think he was something in Fuqua. Or,
Drop it in the comments.
Yeah, but I'm pretty sure Rick Dees had something to do with Pac-Man Fever. God, what an awful, awful song. But, I was an idiot, right? I was like 8.
So the story of Pac-Man, how it was developed by Toru Iwatani, and he was inspired by what for Pac-Man?
Pizza.
He pulled a piece of pizza out, and the remaining shape of the pizza inspired Pac-Man, and he became the creature that needed to eat. He'd go along and eat the ghosts.
And per Scott Pilgrim, it was originally Puck-Man, but they were worried that people would deface the game, so they turned it to Pac-Man.
Because, teenage boys, right? So, what else did we play at the arcade?
Centipede.
Love
I
me
played
some Centipede too.
Tempest, I really liked Tempest.
Galaga.
I was kind of halfway good at Tempest. But...
Later on, the one that I liked was Tron.
Tron
Was really good. With the light cycles and then the little web thing that.
Well, that was one of the first games that had different modes to it, right?
Yeah.
You weren't playing the same.
It wasn't just one screen.
Yeah. You could play the light cycles, or you could play the thing where you're throwing the discs at each other. And I think that did have a final showdown with the big bad. If you made it that far, I never made it that far.
The final boss.
But
so, this is all kind of early mid 80s, right?
Early 80s.
Then the middle of the 80s, there was kind of a crash in the video game industry.
Well, I think 83 was about the end of at least the arcades. I think the arcades kind of stuck around, but they were huge for a while. You had arcades all over the place. Where I was living, they had crazy Clyde's arcades. They were putting old train cars.
That's interesting. I don't remember.
And I remember at its height, you could get 7 tokens for $1. And that was woo, more than 4, right? So that's pretty cool. And
I remember arcades in pizza parlors. I remember arcades in malls. There was one I played in Newport Beach when I used to stay with my grandmother. I went down, and it was next to a 7-Eleven, and it was a little,
Well, I used to play Moon Patrol and Gauntlet at a little convenience store called Toot and Totem. But yeah, they were. It was almost like you go to Nevada, and there's
slot machines
in every gas station, but this was
you used to see video games everywhere. Now you don't.
Yeah, you go to a pizza place and they had those tabletop Miss Pac-Man games, right? So they'd want you
Shakey's Pizza. Go play Miss Pac-Man.
I miss Shakey's. I don't know how good the pizza was, but that place I was always excited to go to Shakey's.
It was an experience.
Guys, there's something magical about a pitcher of soda. You go to pizza, you get a pitcher of soda, and that was amazing because that was back before free refills, right? So I might have more than one soda at Shakey's or at Pizza because we're buying a pitcher of soda.
I remember those. I also remember that it had the machine that you dispensed the soda, and they gave you those like red plastic, like kind of textured glasses, and we would go along and make a suicide. So we would go through and like every single kind of soda we'd mix together, and like that's what we, you know.
Well, we do those at the convenience stores, but at our pizza places, at least, you couldn't serve yourself.
Okay.
They had them hidden away in the back.
LA was progressive, I guess.
Oh, LA is always ahead of the curve.
The Glendale Shakey's.
Oh, yeah.
Was pretty hardcore.
Yeah, I think I've been to that Shakey's.
You probably have.
Your dad took me there after we went gambling one time.
I don't even want to get into that.
Yeah.
So anyway, moving on past the obligatory George Clark story.
Oh, that was easy. That was a light one.
It was. Okay. So what brought in the next evolution of video games? What's the next big console that happened?
Oh my God. Yeah, it was the Nintendo Entertainment System.
The NES.
And it was mind-blowing.
Very much different from the Atari.
I mean, it's amazing how Atari was a big thing, and then it just died. And there was this huge vacuum, and there was usually, you know, stuff fills in, but there was nothing.
So when I was doing my research, they kept referring to sprite technology, which is what NES had. I have no idea what that is. I am not, you know, a techie person. So if anybody knows what that is or wants us to give us a quick rundown on that, put it in the comments, because I'd be interested to know. But they kept referring to that. But the games released during this period for NES, Super Mario Brothers, right?
Yep.
The Legend of Zelda, which I never played. Final Fantasy, which I also didn't play.
The Legend of Zelda, you could actually save games on it. That was, or it'd give you a code, and you punch that code in, and it takes you back to where you left off.
So I did not have an NES. I had a Sega Genesis.
Well, that was a more sophisticated game than that was kind of next generation after the NES.
So what was was it like Super Nintendo?
Super Nintendo.
That came after the NES?
Yeah, but
that was kind of concurrent with the Sega?
But, I mean, going back to the NES, I mean, my favorite games were Metroid and Contra. Oh, my God, the Konami code, those of you know what I'm talking about. Up, down, left, right, B, A, select, start. You could go from having 3 lives on Contra to having 33 lives.
All right.
And I mean, what the striking thing was about the Nintendo for me was you could actually win these games. They had a conclusion. You know, after playing Pitfall for hours, you know, you could only jump so many alligators. But Contra, you could actually get to the end and kill the bad guy. You could play Metroid to the end and kill the bad guy. And I mean, those games were challenging. I played Contra so much that I got to where I could go through with a single life and never die. But I needed those 33 lives to get enough practice to do that. But the spread gun was the secret.
So, some of the technological advancements that started happening during this period that they heralded the new advent of these consoles was the developers started experimenting with 3D graphics, so it doesn't just like look like a flat screen. CD-ROMs were introduced as storage. So the memory that could be held on these games was so much more than were on the cassettes that came before them. Then they introduced parallax scrolling, which is something I learned when I was doing my notes for this. And that was used to create a sense of depth. So there's different layers of background on the screen, and they moved independently of each other at different speeds.
Like in Mike Tyson's Punch-Out, did you ever...
No, I didn't play Mike Tyson.
It's a great game, whether you're into boxing or not. But Little Joe, I think that was his name. Little Joe, was the main character that you played. In between bouts, it would show him training in New York, and he's jogging along like the waterfront. You've got the Statue of Liberty. But yeah, you see different things moving at different speeds. So that must be that parallax scrolling that you're referring to.
So the one that I played that did that was Sonic the Hedgehog. So anybody who's played Sonic is...
Well, that was definitely that was even maybe more next generation.
Yeah, well, that was after these developments.
That was the Odyssey.
So it was...
Oh, no, not the Odyssey, but
it's a Sega.
Yeah.
So I had a Sega Genesis. My friend Carol had a Super Nintendo. So when we were at her house, we'd play Super Mario Brothers. And when we were at my house, we played Sonic. But there were also some really good Disney games at that time, and there was a great Aladdin game, which people still talk about now as how
Yeah.
good that game is. I don't know why we ever gave away my Sega. We should have kept it.
I think it
'Cause-
was maybe for space reasons.
well, story of our lives, right?
Yeah.
But yeah, I like the Aladdin game. I had a Lion King
You know,
game.
they've got emulators we could probably buy that would have all of those.
Probably. And then there was a zombie game that
Oh,
we played. Zombies were
Zombies Ate My Neighbors or
Yeah,
something.
that was fun.
Yeah, that was a lot of fun.
So anyway, Sega was my first console that I owned. And I really liked Sega, so I
Yeah.
played quite a bit of Sega. I think you played quite a bit of my Sega.
Yeah, well, and I had a roommate move in for a month in college, and he had a Sega Genesis, and we played Golden Axe, and we played Altered Beasts, and they were definitely next level. And that prompted one of my other roommates to buy the Nintendo, the Super Nintendo. Yeah,
Right.
that was next level. Yeah.
So then, one of the other games that came about during this time was Doom. That was 1993, and that was one of the first-person shooter games, which is not my favorite genre, but they've led to all of the,
Well, the thing I liked about Doom is that you could find a code online that would allow you to cheat. It'd make you invincible, give you unlimited ammo, and you could even clip through walls to jump ahead in the maze. But
All right. I never played Doom.
Blasting-
And I tend to stay away from first-person shooter.
yeah,
That's not really my thing. So then there was a 3D revolution, and the next step in kind of the console creation was
oh, the PlayStation.
the PlayStation, 1994. So did you ever have a PlayStation?
I didn't
1?
have a PlayStation, but my cousin Ty did, and we played I think it was Star Fox, and yeah, I think it was mostly Star Fox is what we played on it, which was a great game.
So what was your first PlayStation?
You bought me a PlayStation 2.
PlayStation 2. And one of the big games on that was 1997, was Gran Turismo.
That was
And I think we both played that.
well, Gran Turismo 2, because I didn't move out here until after 2000, right? So
Well, I don't know.
I
which
think the
one
first
came.
Gran Turismo might have been for PlayStation 1.
I
But
just remember you playing Gran
yeah, I
Turismo.
played the heck out of some Gran Turismo.
I don't know whether it was 1 or 2. Anyway, tell us about Gran Turismo.
Well, Gran Turismo is very technical. They spent hundreds of hours, years.
5 years to develop that game.
Yeah, and
And the graphics were groundbreaking.
the cars all have unique
So
handling.
what is it?
and
So
character-
describe the
it's
game for somebody who hasn't played it.
So, I mean, you might call it just a racing game, but it's really more of a simulator, like a racing simulator, because it is very technical. Some of the challenges that they have are very, very challenging, and
So you get to choose your car.
Yeah.
Because I like that part of it. I like the customization.
well, and
so-
you develop your car over time because you earn credits and you can buy upgrades for your car.
And then you choose what racetrack you're racing on, and they're actual racetracks, right?
Yeah, so you'd have just the oval, that was one of them. But then you'd have Laguna Seca was one of the choices. You had famous racetracks from around the world,
Right.
that you could choose from. So I'm not a big race driver, so I know Laguna Seca because it's like an hour away from here.
And they had accessories for that game. Like you could get a steering wheel if you wanted
I
to.
always
You
wanted
could
a
use-
steering
You
wheel.
could use the controller, but you could also get a steering wheel.
I always wanted the steering wheel. I felt like the controller, I think also one of the remarkable things about, the Atari, basically you turned it to the right, you turned it to the left, and it's just like pushing a button. But the Nintendo controllers, and I think especially like when you get to the PlayStation, they have sensitivity, so it can tell how hard you're pushing the controller. But it's so delicate. It's really hard to turn just right with when on a car simulator. So I always wanted that full steering wheel and gas pedals and stuff like that for Gran Turismo.
So then, early 21st century, another jump in technology led to games with really expansive worlds. So you're not just playing within the parameters of this, whatever it happens to be, whether it's the racetrack or whatever. It's a world that you can wander around in.
Yeah, an open world.
Yeah, open world and more realistic graphics. So at this time, the Xbox 360 came out. One of the big games for that was Gears of War. And then Halo 3 came out. I never played Halo, but
No, me either.
that one, I guess, had proprietary in house graphics engine. And it had higher dynamic range, global lighting, and that was the first game that used motion blurring. And then Skyrim came out. I never played Skyrim. Did you play it?
I played a lot of Oblivion. So we're talking about Elder Scrolls, and I think Oblivion was Elder Scrolls 3 and Skyrim was Elder Scrolls 4. I'm going to be honest. I rage quit Skyrim.
Okay.
I
never played it.
So the thing about Skyrim is it is literally an open world, and you can easily walk into zones that are just way, way above your level, right? And so I got myself into kind of a dungeon sort of thing, and I just kept getting my butt kicked, and I was just like, I am to hell with this. I don't even want to log in and walk out of that place, So plus, the talent tree is so complex on Skyrim. Anyway, so
the next jump is PlayStation 4, which I know you had because I bought you one.
yes,
And Xbox One, which kind of came out around the same time.
as they are wont to do.
Yes, they are want to do because everybody's competing, right? So here's this new technology. Everybody needs to come out with a console for it. And again, this is another jump forward with the graphics. So there's dynamic lighting that allows shadows to be created. And some of the big games at that period were Witcher 3. Did you ever play Witcher?
That's another game that I felt like the combat system did not feel intuitive to me, so I own it, but I didn't play it much.
Next one is one I know you played for a while at least. If Tony were here, he could speak to this. Star Wars Battlefront.
Yeah, I think you bought me the Battlefront console, actually, so it came with the game. And that's okay. I mean, if you like that sort of game, but I don't really care for that sort of game. So it's not actually it doesn't have a plot. It's just you shooting other guys. So I don't find that interesting.
Okay, and the next game I'm going to mention, and then I'm going to be quiet for a minute because someone else in the room will give you all the lowdown on Horizon Zero Dawn.
Yes, Horizon Zero Dawn. That is one of my favorite all-time games. It's got a great storyline. I think the interface is really, speaking of intuitive, it feels intuitive. The combat it's challenging but not crushingly so.
Tell us the story. What's it about?
You're a character called Aloy, and yeah, she's like about a 16-year-old. It's kind of a coming of age story. And she's been kind of rejected by her tribe, and she's been raised as an outcast.
And it's post-apocalyptic, right? Because it has like our world, but after
that's
some sort of an apocalypse.
Yeah,
like
spoilers, man. So anyway,
you were running around in like Vegas, and you were running around in like San Francisco.
Well, you're getting up to Forbidden West, so you're jumping way ahead here. Yeah, look who's jumping ahead now.
I'm just sitting in the room while he's doing it, so I see him across the room playing it. So anyway, go ahead. Sorry.
But gradually, and you can early on, you can see the remains of the chapel at the Air Force Academy. So you know that you're in Colorado Springs. It doesn't spell this out for you. This is all sort of stuff that it kind of trickles out slowly. You're in this world, and you've got these. They almost seem like hybrid machine animals. Well, I guess they're not actually hybrids, or they are machines. You kind of either avoid them or you kill them and use them for parts. And anyway, it is a fabulous game. The gameplay is great. They do a really good job of avoiding sometimes games can be very frustrating. And they do a really nice job of making it fun and challenging at the same time without being as frustrating as games sometimes can be.
All right. So,
great story too.
The current evolution of consoles. my experience with it was I wanted to get Neil a PS5, PlayStation 5, and that was a pain in the butt. It came out and Christmas came and you could not get one. You absolutely could not get one. And there'd be a drop like at Best Buy or something, and then they'd be gone. And I tried for over a year. 2 Christmases passed where I could not get a PS5. So I did what people do and I went on eBay, which ended up costing twice as much as if I had paid retail for it, but I was just done fooling around with it.
I told you not to do that.
So anyway, was it worth the extra money and hassle for the PS5? What's the difference between the PS4 and the PS5 for you?
The number.
That's it? You don't think it's like, I mean, are the games drastically different?
No, they're really not. I had games. Well, I still play PS4 games on the PS5, and not even the updated games that they sometimes come out with. The original Horizon Zero Dawn is every bit as good as Forbidden West.
You still play it. I still play the original.
There's a game, Ghost of Tsushima. I think it was originally released on the PS4. I think I bought it for the PS4.
That's the one with the grass that moves, right? It's
that game
pretty.
It's
a really pretty
beautiful.
game.
It's a beautiful game. The gameplay is fun. It's one of the most. It's a great game.
Other games I've seen you play on the PS4 is that God of War. That was one you
God
played
of
a lot.
War. I think that came out on the. Well, they've had a couple of different ones where he's kind of in the Norse sort of.
Mm-hmm. I got you.
Idiom.
I got you the VR too.
I had that for the PlayStation 4, and I'll be honest. I mean, it was kind of fun, but it wasn't that much more fun.
All I know is I got socked in the stomach when he was playing it because he had it on and he couldn't see, and I was like, I guess you had headphones or something on too.
Yeah, you
couldn't
it covers
hear
your,
me either.
Well, you put in earbuds, and so it is. It's.
And I had to walk by him to go upstairs, and like he's gesturing around and like whacks me in the stomach.
Well, I had a bad guy coming for me, and I was supposed to punch him, so I punched him, but
he did. I can attest to that. So that's kind of where we are with the consoles.
Yeah.
So I was not a big after Sega. I didn't really play the consoles. I did get Neil a Wii at one point. And the one game that I kind of enjoyed playing was Guitar Hero,
Guitar
which is
Hero
very different.
Was a
from,
great game, yeah.
A lot of the console games where you have your controller looks like a guitar, and then you're playing along to music, and you have to hit the notes as the notes scroll by. And I thought that was a really
fun.
game.
You could listen to some good music while you're playing it.
Yeah, I mean, some of the songs were Sweet Child of Mine. I like that one.
They had a lot of great songs. Crazy on You. Girlfriend by Matthew Sweet was one of my favorites.
That was a fun one. Yeah, what was the boss song? Freebird.
Freebird on the original. Yeah,
playing
was
Freebird, like the solo from Freebird. That was tough.
Yeah.
So I wish we hadn't gotten rid of that too, because that was a fun game.
I shouldn't have gotten rid of it. That was a.
And that's when we played together, because I didn't play a lot of the console games, but I did after we got rid of the Sega. But I did play that.
Maybe I'll look into getting. Maybe they've got a Guitar Hero for the PS5.
We haven't gotten any more space in our apartment since then, but
true.
You never know. Live in Santa Cruz, you live where you live.
Yeah, pretty
You're grateful
much.
you're not paying $4,000 a month for rent. So now we're going to move on to computer games that you're going to play on your computer. And these have evolved into what are called MMOs, which stands for Massively Multiplayer Online Games. So it started modestly, as all of these games did. And they started at universities, because universities were the only places that had the computing guts to be able to do this. So they started just as text-based games. So,
Well, and you're talking about cooperative games.
Cooperative games. So, and I mean, that's kind of the hallmark of these games, right?
Well, but there were also standalone games on the computer. Pirates was one that as a kid I played a lot. Mm-hmm. And you see some references in Ready Player One to like Zork and Wizardry.
Settlers of Catan, was that one?
Well, I don't think so. I think that's a tabletop game, I think.
Okay.
Wizardry was one I played a lot. That was kind of a obviously a fantasy sort of thing, and it very, very primitive graphics, and it was a turn-based combat. But it was, I loved that.
But let's get into my
Okay, so back to the MMOs.
yeah. So in the beginning at the universities, they were playing MUDs, which standard for multi-user dungeons. That's like the 70s. They were inspired by D&D, usually fantasy based, and they had no graphics. It was just text. And you choose text options back and forth. And you had to use your imagination, like in D&D, right? There's a dragon. What do? Use a key to open the door, grab your sword, whatever. And then, as is the story with the console games, as technology progressed, so did the games. So the next step were AOL enters the picture and CompuServe enters the picture. And they start offering public online access that you're paying for. You remember we paid for AOL for your web use. It wasn't the internet yet. It was AOL. And often for premium prices. So they had a game called The Island of Kesme, and that was 1985. So this is way
that
before.
far back.
Yeah.
Wow.
And it allowed,
AOL was back in the 80s.
that was actually CompuServe.
CompuServe.
That was CompuServe. And it allowed up to 100 players to play. And 1 hour of access back in the day cost between $6 and $12 an hour.
Dang.
Which our prices would be $16 to $33 an hour. Then in the 1990s...
There are 900 numbers that were cheaper back then.
I wouldn't know that either.
I see them on television back then, right? They
Actually, they still are on television. I don't know who's doing that.
Yeah,
you could just,
it seems...
you could get a lot of other things for free. So anyway, in the 1990s, it started progressing, right? Still mostly text-based, but there was a game called Neverwinter Nights in 1991. That was AOL entering the picture. And that one cost $6 an hour to play. It let you create a character, and it was a fantasy world. And at the end of its run, it had 115,000 players, which, nothing to sneeze at, right? And the progression of these games is they started becoming less and less text-based and more graphic focused. So in 1997, there was a game called Ultima Online that had a PvP combat system. If you don't know what PvP is, it's player versus player. And it focused on player interaction. So what changed? What was the next evolution? What changed was our friend the internet, right? As soon as the internet kind of became more mainstream for everybody, these games became more widely available and significantly cheaper to play. So in 2004, a game came along that basically revolutionized this. And what was the game?
World of Warcraft.
World of Warcraft. Neil and I can both speak on World of Warcraft. We've both played World of Warcraft, though neither of us played in 2004.
No.
So what was in 2004, when we refer to the people who've been playing since 2004, the snotty people on WoW,
I started playing vanilla beta.
Yeah, vanilla. That's what they call. I've been playing since vanilla. If you could say you've been playing since vanilla, you've been playing WoW for a long time.
You know how to play WoW in a lot of ways that aren't really applicable anymore.
So I'll talk a little bit, just to introduce WoW to everybody. So WoW, I would say it's definitely influenced by Dungeons and Dragons.
Oh, for sure.
Right?
Absolutely.
There are dragons. There are dungeons. But it was innovative in terms of its graphics. It was detailed. It had impactful combat. It gave you flexibility to mold your character the way you want. And that is, as the game has progressed, that has also progressed. You get to choose what race you want to play, and there's a variety of different choices. You can be a human, you can be a gnome, You can be
Night elf,
a night elf, a Draenei, which is like a tall blue goat person.
alien,
In,
space goats.
the last expansion, you could be a dragon. They're called a Drakthir. I have one. She's very cool.
Sort of like a draconian if you play D&D.
We're talking a lot about the Alliance because Neil and I both mostly play the Alliance.
You've got night elves on Alliance, blood elves on
on
the
the
Horde.
Horde. And on the Horde, there's also Tauren, which look kind of like a bull, I guess.
Well, they're like a minotaur.
Yeah, there's trolls,
Goblins, orcs.
undead.
Yes.
So anyway, you get to choose your race, and then you also get to choose your class. And for your class, you can be. My main is a hunter. She started as my main and has remained. I've been playing since 2013. And what led me to play World of Warcraft was Neil was playing World of Warcraft and ignoring me. And so I figured, if I start playing, I can play too, because it's supposed to be cooperative. And then he promptly quit playing World of Warcraft and has been playing PlayStation ever since. And I remained and kept playing World of Warcraft. But anyway, my main is a hunter, which is ironic because I did say I don't like first-person shooter games. But what I like about hunters is the pets.
Well, it's still a third-person game, right?
Yeah.
But yeah, hunter's probably the most popular class in World of Warcraft too.
They refer to them as huntards because apparently it's supposed to be an easy class to play.
So here's the thing: is that it's not hard to play, but I mean that's the beautiful thing about World of Warcraft is it's easy to play but hard to master.
Yeah.
Every class has its, and that's kind of one of the reasons why I stopped playing it is because every expansion they changed the. They'll change something about each class, and they'll change something about your rotation. The attacks that you use, and I think it was in Legion when they changed my main was a guardian druid, and I just did not like
Which is a bear.
Yeah, I did not. Yeah, you turned into a bear.
But Neil did a lot of kind of the combat things in World of Warcraft, so he did dungeons, he did raids, he was in a regular raid group.
I think one of the reasons I left is the way they kind of undercut the guild system, and they just made it where they made it so easy to join with find other raid groups that in our raid group there were about 3 or 4 of us who really did a lot, had been raiding for years. And then we would have to recruit other people. Most of the people we recruited or that were available for recruiting were kind of new to the game and weren't great at it. And so they made it where it was really hard to keep a dedicated raid group together. At least I thought it was really hard. So,
whereas I think the reason I've stayed, because I'm a solo player. I don't play as I am in a guild, but I don't really socialize with my guild. I don't do group dungeons or raids or whatever. But what I like to do, I like to pet battle, which, people have kind of disparaged and said, it's kind of like, Pokemon, whatever. I like taming pets, and then you can, battle with other battle pets, you level them. I have a lot of battle pets. One of my favorites is this boy right here. He is a whelping, so he's a baby dragon, and he is the Nexus whelping. So my virtual Nexus whelpings are badass, and they are one of my favorite. I actually have 3 of them. You pet battle with 3 pets, and I will go in with a team of 3 of these guys, and they kick everybody's ass most of the time.
Well, and that's one of the beauties of World of Warcraft is that there's something for everybody. You can do dungeons, you can raid, you can...
Yeah, if you want to fish.
There's solo content.
I remember one time I was looking for something, and I was on a raft, and I was just kind of floating around. And one of the things about World of Warcraft is they change things with the seasons. So they have holidays. They celebrate Feast of the Winter Veil, which is essentially Christmas. They have like a Halloween holiday, and Easter, like a spring Easter holiday. But also it changes... the time of day changes. So if you're playing during the day, it's sunny out, and at night, night falls. And I was out riding around on this raft, and I was looking for something, and it was sunset, and like it actually sunset out over the water, and it was just one of the most beautiful things. And I was like, wow, this game is just gorgeous. I started playing, the expansion I started playing was during Mists of Pandaria, which Neil did not like because the race they introduced were pandas and he was not down with the pandas. But I think Pandaria is by far the most beautiful area of WoW. It looks like China, but it's gorgeous with like cherry blossoms and pagodas, and it's just sometimes I'll just go to Pandaria and just go fishing just to chill out.
Well, the expansion that followed that was, I think, Warlords of Draenor, which is
Which
probably
sucked.
probably
It was
the
like
worst
the worst
expansion.
one. Yeah, it
and
almost killed the
I feel
game.
like the developers did that because of the backlash against Mists. Because Mists, there was a lot of love put into that. It was gorgeous, and really, I mean, we're kind of jerks.
If you're on the
internet,
inn, you call it MOP,
right?
Mr. Pandaria.
It just,
Yeah.
you know, it was. I didn't like that they split my class. I was a feral druid in Cataclysm, and they split the feral and into Guardian, which I won't get into that. But I mean, and the thing that the itch that WoW scratched, that MMOs scratched, was for decades. You know, if you've been a long time gamer. At the Atari, one of the things you wanted, man, I wish we could play cooperatively. I wish we could play on the same team, because they had games where you could play against people, but it would have been fun to play with
kind of
somebody.
like D&D, right? You play with your friends.
Yeah.
And WoW allowed you to do that even if you weren't in the same room. You know, you could live across the country or even in different countries and play with your friends. So WoW hit its peak in 2010, and that was with which expansion?
That was Lich King, Wrath of the Lich King.
Yeah, if you're on the end, you call it Wrath. And it had 12 million players playing. The way WoW works is if you're going to play WoW, you pay a monthly subscription fee. At that point, the monthly subscription fee was $15 a month. There were 12 million players playing.
Well, and you still have to buy the expansion too, so
Yeah.
it's like $40, $50 for that.
Yeah. So at that point, the game was making around 180 million a month.
Wow.
One of the nice things about WoW is you have an ability to earn gold in game. So if you do certain things, you get gold. You can actually exchange gold in the auction house for playing time. So if you're really good and you're playing enough, you can get enough gold that you can exchange that, and you're not actually spending your actual money on your subscription.
That's kind of a newish introduction, but yeah.
Yeah. So anyway, we could go on and on about WoW, but we won't. But because WoW was so popular, there was a hype for these MMOs. And so everybody kind of rolled out their MMO. So there was Star Wars Old Republic, there was Guild Wars, there was Elder Scrolls Online. But really, WoW was the OG, and WoW remains.
I think WoW is still the king. I played Destiny,
Yeah.
which was another MMO. Honestly, it's kind of funny. For decades, I wanted to play cooperatively. Now, I just want to be left alone. I mean, I got tired of being forced into cooperative activities, so that's kind of why I left MMOs.
Yeah. Well, I play an MMO and I play alone most of the time, but I have my pets, so I never feel alone. So it begs the question, you know, there is a kind of an aging audience for these MMOs. Those of us who grew up playing WoW are now nerds over 40, right? And the younger generation isn't playing these as much. They have their own stuff they're doing. You know, our nieces and nephews aren't playing WoW. I actually showed WoW to one of my nephews, and he was kind of like, played for a couple of minutes, but it didn't hook him. So we're going to get into what are the kids playing in a moment. But if, you know, all of these stories of these games come with kind of that technological advancement, so what would be something that would revitalize the MMO? Virtual reality. I mean, you said that the virtual reality game you had, you weren't really into.
Well, no, I enjoyed it, and the game. It was the one I played the most was No Man's Sky, and that is a time suck. It's fun, but it.
Yeah, but like as we've referenced before, and if you haven't watched our other episodes, there's a book and then a movie called Ready Player One. And in that, it has a virtual world that is kind of the next step or a big next step past what we've been playing as MMOs. And in that, you are, walking on a treadmill, you have a whole headset on, you're seeing the world around you, it's not on a screen.
Yeah, the technology is much more
Yeah.
sophisticated. Not everyone has a treadmill, but yeah, it's much more immersive.
Yeah. So would you want to go to the Oasis and do what they do in the Oasis?
I mean, it's almost holodeck.
Yeah, it is like a holodeck, but you do have to have equipment. You have to have haptic gloves and like a visor,
a visor with
whatever.
headphones, and
yeah,
and it kind of goes up from there.
But there is actually you go there and there's different worlds, and one of the worlds is in fact Azeroth.
Azeroth is
so
one
you
of
could,
them. But
so that's the next expansion of World of Warcraft. It would be pretty
but like
cool. I'd go.
there's a Middle Earth. There's lots of different worlds to choose from.
So we're gonna, because we are running into time, but we're gonna talk a little bit about what are other electronic games we played.
Well, so I had a little football game. That's the first handheld game I had, was a little football game. Groot was playing something very similar to that in the Guardians of the Galaxy games.
I had a Simon game. Would you?
Simon.
That was a memory game, and then it had different colors, and different colors would flash in different order, and then it would stop, and you'd have to press the buttons in the order that.
And we had a red one. I can't remember what it was called, but it had kind of you could play tic-tac-toe against it and other games. But the first really cool one I had was a Tron handheld. Mm-hmm. And the thing that was great about that Tron game was that it you could actually beat the boss. It had different levels to it, and in some ways that was cooler than the Atari games I was playing too. So it was. I mean, the graphics were extremely primitive, right? It wasn't even really animated, but it was fun. So that's what's important.
So the first kind of handheld one that I remember playing was a Game Boy. I had a Game Boy.
Yeah.
But we were talking about that. It came with little cassettes, right? But all I ever played on it was Tetris.
Yeah, Tetris was huge. I mean, I can hear the song in my head right now.
Yeah.
Tennis was one. My brother had one. I didn't really have one, but I played his, and tennis was a great game on there that I remember playing a lot of.
Yeah. So, and now it went to like Nintendo has the Switch, and Ben, my coworker, just got the Switch 2 or the Switch Plus, the new Switch that's supposed to be. It's bigger. It has like 2 controllers, so you can play with both controllers, or one person can take one and one person can take the other.
That has its own screen, but it can also project onto a television.
Yeah.
How sophisticated is that?
I don't know.
Yeah, it'd be interesting to see.
I haven't played it, but yeah, that seems to be the thing right now. But it seems like what everybody is playing, and something that we play also, are games on our phones.
Yeah.
So those games are supposed to be free to play.
Freemium games.
But like the microtransactions on those games are crazy.
South Park has got an excellent episode about these games, about how they're designed to be only kind of fun, but not really fun. Just enough to kind of keep you coming back. Yeah,
right?
They're
very
addictive. Yeah.
So they started Nokia when those phones came out. There was a game called Snake that was just like a little like line moving around, and you had to like lead him to the food, and he would eat the food.
And it's almost like the light cycles. You couldn't hit your own tail, right?
Yeah. So that was kind of the beginning of it. And then once again, as we've talked about, as technology progresses, so do the games, right? So one of the things about the phone games that I've noticed are a lot of these other games are very much geared to a certain audience, like Grand Theft Auto, whatever. Kind of like the teenage boy.
Well,
audience.
Halo, most of those first-person shooters are geared towards men, I think.
Yeah. Whereas the phone games appeal to a broader audience.
Yeah.
So what was that one that everybody was playing? Was it Farmville? That one was,
I never really played those.
Candy Crush.
Well, I think those were cooperative. And people played those through Facebook games too.
Yeah.
Do they still have Facebook games?
I don't know. I've never played games on Facebook. Candy Crush is
Yeah.
another one.
I played a lot of Candy Crush.
Angry Birds. I played a lot of Angry
Angry
Birds.
Birds was one of the best.
Yeah, I liked it.
Yeah.
I still play it once in a while. I liked Angry Birds. One of the ones that when it came out seemed kind of revolutionary was Pokemon Go. I mean, people were getting hit by cars and stuff when they were playing Pokemon
Well, we
Go.
were at our first. Was it our first Comic Con or second?
I don't know, one of our Comic Cons.
They had a panel for Pokemon Go, and the rumor was they were going to drop a new Pokemon.
Yeah.
And so people were like, even people who couldn't get in, crammed in as close as they could to Hall H to try and see if they couldn't get that new Pokemon. There was no new Pokemon.
The way it works is there's kind of like a map on the phone, and it shows you when a Pokemon drops somewhere. And when you pull it up, you can catch these Pokemon. You have them in your stable, and then there's, I think they're called gyms or something.
Yeah.
Where you go and you battle with other people who have Pokemon.
I had a coworker who was obsessive about it. She turned our place of work into a gym.
So that was a game that
You'd
people
see
were really
roaming
into.
bands of hooligans going
Yes.
from gym to gym.
So, I know we're nerds over 40, but let's talk about what the kids are playing. So one of the ones that there was just a movie out was Minecraft. And I never played Minecraft, but it's a virtual world that's explorable and you build it, right? They're like blocks that you build things out
And
of.
people have done, like, I've seen where someone's made like a Middle Earth. In
Yeah, or
Minecraft,
Hogwarts
and yeah,
or
they've
whatever.
done some remarkable things.
Yeah. So that's one. And then another one that I think you played a little bit, so maybe you can fill us in, is Fortnite. And that's interactive. So tell us how Fortnite
I
works.
played with my niece and nephew, and it's pure PvP. And honestly, I think Fortnite was invented to to let older people massacre preteens. My niece and nephew,
There's
they
nothing
would
wrong
just
with
jump
that.
in and they'd try to stay away from everybody as long as they could before they got killed. And I played with them, and they were kind of like surprised when I took off after other players to try and kill them first. And but yeah, I don't have a great opinion of Fortnite personally, but
Okay. So for me, the games I'm playing now, as a nerd over 40, I'm still playing WoW, though this podcast and some other hobbies have actually taken up some of my time, and I'm kind of behind right now in WoW. So I would like to get back into that. I do play a couple of games on my phone. I have like a virtual billiards game that I play on my phone. And then I have this game that like these ropes are all twisted up and you have to untwist the rope. And when you untwist them, they disappear. So those are kind of
that's a very satisfying game.
It is a satisfying game. So those are kind of that's all I'm really playing in terms of electronic games. How about you?
Well, I've been replaying Hogwarts Legacy, which is one of the best games I've ever played. It's,
That's a console game.
It's a
on
console game.
PlayStation.
It's really immersive. It's a lot of fun. If you're into the Harry Potter universe, it's fantastic.
I think that's a game that I would probably enjoy.
Once again, I think that the controls are very intuitive. It's fun, and the story is really good. Now on my phone, Royal Match, I've played the heck out of that. I'm playing this stupid archery game where you're shooting
other people.
Yeah, it's pure PvP. Though I don't think the other person. I don't think the other person. It's got a person's name like it is, but I don't think they're actually controlling that character when you're shooting at it. But
Okay.
just because they're if they are, then other people are terrible at it. I'm killing them.
To finish, I mean, I think we are, or at least I am, what they refer to in WoW as a filthy casual. So I don't play much. I play kind of to relax. But
when you're going to work 40 plus hours a week, it's hard.
Well,
to
I'm out of the house probably 12 hours a day right now.
Yeah.
And between that and the podcast, it's taking up a lot of my time. So I do miss playing though. So if anybody out there plays WoW, drop your battle tag and we can be friends on WoW and maybe play a little bit. I don't think I'm ever going to take up another game the way I've played WoW.
Yeah.
You know,
Well,
when
there's not another game like WoW. You know,
no.
the other MMOs you've played, and I've played. I mean, basically the only. Well, no, I did try the Old Republic, and I've tried a couple of others, but there's nothing gives you kind of that same depth of stuff that you can do. Like there are actual professions in WoW that you can level up.
You can role play. You can be in one of the servers that does role
They
playing.
do have role play servers.
You can do what's the messed up server?
Moonguard is the one
The
that
Moonguard, and what is that?
that is like the Jeffrey Epstein of
yeah, and you go to
WoW servers.
what is the place where they all congregate? It's
Goldshire.
Goldshire, the inn at Goldshire.
Yeah.
If you're ever interested in seeing the dark side of WoW, create a tune on Moonguard and go to the inn at Goldshire, which is just outside of Stormwind, and hijinks will ensue. That's all I'm going to say on that one. But anyway, we hope we've given you kind of a basic introduction to gaming. Like I said, we are going to be doing a D&D episode where we're going to get into more of kind of the fantasy role playing that's different, and maybe LARPing. You could talk about LARPing.
Well, talking about games tonight, it sounds like the ones that you really miss were from your Sega Genesis.
Yeah, I liked my Sega Genesis games. That Aladdin game was probably, I mean, if you asked me to rank my favorite games that I've ever played that were electronic, one would be WoW and the other would be that Aladdin game for Sega. And I liked Sonic too. Sonic was fun.
Well, I really think we've hit diminishing returns on graphics at this point. I think this quest for realism, I don't think that realism is as important as is engaging gameplay and a good story. Those two things I think are much more important than like, oh, I can see her eyelash,
Yeah.
And that's great. And, like I said, Ghost of Tsushima is one of the most beautiful games I've ever played. It's breathtaking. And they did a great job on the gameplay on that game too. But, I think that game would have been a lot of fun even if it wasn't gorgeous, just because the gameplay was good and the story was good.
Yeah, you need a good story. So if all you're focusing on is the graphics and there isn't a good story, then you may play it once or twice, but there needs to be some meat on the bone, I think.
Well, I think that's what distinguishes WoW from other MMOs, is it does have, and they've got people writing the story behind it. Like I played some Destiny and there's Halo out there, but the story is very, very shallow. There's not much story behind it. There's not much lore behind it. Whereas, World of Warcraft has got a ton of lore. And World of Warcraft came from a game called Warcraft before that was kind of a strategy sort of game. And then World of Warcraft came and put you in as an individual player, which was revolutionary. And I didn't play Warcraft, but there are people out there who made the jump from Warcraft to World of Warcraft. And you want to talk about a nerdgasm, I think those are the people who just, it blew their minds.
Well, and because as technology has progressed, so has WoW. You have a new expansion every, year or 2 years, and then it looks different. It's, the graphics have changed. So if you go into one of the older zones and like your lion is all kind of cubist, versus like the one that you got in the current expansion, which is, looks amazing and badass, it does progress. So I don't need to go to another game to have those graphics look better. I could just stay playing WoW. Though there were people who had nostalgia for the original WoW, so they released WoW Classic, and you could go back to the very beginning and play from the very beginning, which I
wish
did
I'd
not
done
do.
that. I kind of wish I'd have gone back to and tried
I like
out
all
WoW
the new
Classic.
stuff. And for me, I'm attached to my main. But anyway, what are we talking about next week, Neil?
Oh my goodness! What did we threw some
Well,
ideas
we
around,
talked
right?
about today we rewatched the latest episode of Strange New Worlds,
Yeah.
which is the current Star Trek series on Paramount Plus.
And it was outstanding.
It was really good. If you're not watching that show, if you're a Trekkie, you should be watching that show. But if you are not a Trekkie and you might want a gateway into Trekkie, I think Strange New Worlds is a great series. It's so good. I
Yeah,
like Captain Pike.
it has the most. I don't know. It has the most Star Trek feel to me
Yeah.
since like the original series, and even I mean, and give the Next Generation its due. But yeah, since those two series, it's
Yeah.
back to. I love these long serialized arcs that we get with so many television shows now, with so much streaming. But it gets old. You know, when you finish an episode and you're like, I've got to wait till next week to see it, or
Yeah.
I've got to binge a whole season's worth. It's much more episodic.
Like the OG Star Trek was.
And it's so satisfying to me.
Yeah, and it's got like the Gorn. It's got, like,
And the actors are I love Anson Mount.
yeah, he plays Pike.
And
He's awesome.
if I do a cosplay next Comic-Con, I might have my hairstylist do my hair like Anson Mount.
We're gonna have to get some major mousse and hairspray.
Yeah,
Happen.
I'll be fat Captain Pike and
Nice. So anyway, we're
be the
thinking
biggest gold shirt you've ever seen.
it'll probably be Star Trek, maybe just specifically Strange New Worlds.
Yeah.
We'll talk a little bit about kind of the characters that you see in Strange New Worlds that we've seen.
Hey, that's a good
in
excuse
other
to
iterations.
like start from the beginning of the series and watch it all over again.
Yeah, I don't know if we're gonna get all that watched in a week, but we could at least
Challenge accepted.
Yeah, I better get out of work a little earlier. If
That's
case.
true.
But anyway, so I think that's where we're going to go next week. So in the meantime, thank you for joining us. We always wait to say this till the end when people have probably dropped out, but please like and subscribe.
Please like and
that would help
subscribe.
us a lot.
And you know
we're
what?
trying to build our channel, so
Comment,
yeah.
please.
Tell us the games you play. Give us some recommendations.
Let's fight in the comments.
No, let's not fight in the comments. But I'm sure there's some games that we missed that you love.
I know we missed some
Yeah, I mean,
games.
we just barely touched on.
And
it.
we are not video game experts necessarily by any stretch of the imagination. So throw it out there, guys.
Yeah, but in the meantime, thanks for coming and live long and prosper.
Adios, nerdmigos.
Adios, nerdmigos. I can't do it with that hand. Here, live long and prosper.
You do it with right hand, yeah.
Yeah, I got to give it the right hand.